There's a silent shift taking place on the global stage. Two nations, both rising, both powerful, both ancient in their civilizations, are now the center of gravity in the modern world, but the world sees them very differently. India is trusted, China is feared. Why? Both nations are giants in their own right. Both command immense populations, booming economies, and influence that now reaches across continents. And yet when diplomats from Washington or Brussels, London or Canberra sit at the table, they treat the two very differently. One is welcomed into joint security alliances, invited into economic coalitions, embraced as a partner. The other is countered, questioned, sanctioned, and in many ways quietly encircled. This isn't just about policy, it's about perception, it's about behavior. It's about how a nation chooses to exercise power and what that power feels like to others. Take the Indo-Pacific. When India signed logistics pacts with the United States, France, and Japan, it was seen as a stabilizing step, a democracy taking responsibility in its region. But when China began militarizing islands, expanding naval bases in the South China Sea, and extending its footprint into Africa and Latin America, the reaction was one of alarm. Same region, similar capabilities, very different conclusions. The difference lies not in strength, but in intent. The West doesn't fear strength, it fears opacity. It fears aggression that hides behind polite diplomacy. It fears unpredictability. India's rise is strong but transparent. It respects borders, even when contested. It participates in forums. It builds quietly but with consensus. China's rise, on the other hand, has been marked by force, secrecy, and coercion. Taiwan, Hong Kong, border tensions with India, trade wars, cyber attacks, debt traps. The list grows longer with each passing year, and trust, especially in geopolitics, is not built on admiration. It's built on predictability, on principles, on how you behave when you think no one's watching. India's system is messy, loud, imperfect, but it is democratic. Elections happen, governments change, courts intervene, journalists report, civil society speaks. Western nations understand this. They know how democracies function. India may not always align with their preferences, but it plays by familiar rules. China, by contrast, is governed by a single party that answers to no voters, no press, and no external scrutiny. To the West, that's not just a difference, that's a risk, because without accountability, power becomes dangerous. It becomes unpredictable. It becomes untrustworthy. And that at its core is why India, for all its flaws, all its noise, all its internal divisions, is embraced. And China, for all its wealth, discipline, and speed, is feared. The difference doesn't stop at politics. It's even clearer in how these two nations engage economically with the world. When China arrives with investment, the promise is simple: fast money, no questions asked, roads, ports, power stations, all offered through easy loans. But the fine print, that's where the real cost hides. Countries from Sri Lanka to Zambia now find themselves drowning in debt, watching their infrastructure slowly slide into Chinese control. The so-called Belt and Road Initiative, once sold as a grand vision of connectivity, has become for many a story of dependence and regret. Now contrast that with India. India's economic partnerships are slower, more modest, even bureaucratic at times, but they are also less invasive. When India builds a port in Iran, or offers credit to Bangladesh, or supports IT infrastructure in Africa, it does so without taking over. There are no hidden clauses, no secret control rooms. It's development, not domination. And the West notices, because when nations build influence through loans and trade, intent matters. China's approach feels transactional, even imperial in nature. India's approach, on the other hand, feels cooperative, more of a peer than a patron. This is not just theory. Look at the response from Europe, Australia, and the United States. China has spent billions spreading its model, but it's India that's getting invited into the Quad. It's India that is being courted for critical supply chains, from semiconductors to pharmaceuticals. It's India that's increasingly seen as the democratic counterweight to Beijing in Asia. Part of this is ideological. Democracies, even flawed ones, tend to attract each other. But part of it is strategic. The West is not just investing in India because it shares values. It's investing in India because it trusts that India won't use those partnerships to someday control or coerce. That's a hard-earned position, and it's even more remarkable considering India's history. It wasn't long ago that New Delhi leaned heavily toward non-alignment, skeptical of both Washington and Beijing. But even in that cautious posture, India never undermined the global order. It never hacked into data systems. It never built secret police networks abroad. It never turned economic partnerships into political leverage. China has done all of those things, and every time it does, it reinforces the fear. So even though India and China both seek influence, the paths they've chosen couldn't be more different. And the world, particularly the West, has responded accordingly. Because trust isn't about how loud you speak. It's about how you behave when you think no one is looking. Military behavior is often where trust is tested most clearly. It's one thing to hold weapons. It's another thing to show restraint in using them. China holds one of the largest militaries in the world. It boasts aircraft carriers, long-range missiles, nuclear subs, and now even hypersonic capabilities. But its posture is not defensive. It's assertive, and at times openly aggressive. Its moves around Taiwan are not subtle. The incursions into the South China Sea ignore international law. Its border skirmishes, from the Himalayas to the East China Sea, are not mere exercises. They are signals that China is prepared to assert its dominance, even through force. Now compare that to India. India is armed too. It is a nuclear power. It has a blue water navy. It has developed advanced missile systems, jet fighters, and satellite networks. But India does not throw its weight around. Even in moments of real conflict, like the Galwan Valley clash, or surgical strikes in response to terrorism, India's actions have been precise, measured, and openly communicated. The West watches this, and it draws conclusions. Because military power is not only judged by capability, it's judged by discipline. And between the two, India has shown the greater maturity. It defends, but does not provoke. It engages, but does not invade. This principle carries into cyberspace too. China is routinely accused of cyber espionage, intellectual property theft, and data manipulation. Western companies, universities, and even governments have been breached. And when traced, those footprints often lead to Chinese servers, military-affiliated units, or state-sponsored hacker groups. India, on the other hand, has not been linked to major global cyber operations. While it develops its own cyber capabilities, it does so under restraint, focusing on defense and domestic surveillance, not global infiltration. It's not just a matter of ethics, it's a matter of credibility. The West is betting heavily on the digital future, and in that world, trust is everything. Nations that respect boundaries, physical or digital, are considered safe partners. Nations that blur the line between government, military, and private industry, like China does, are viewed as threats. Alliances further amplify this divide. India participates in forums like the Quad, engages in naval drills with Western democracies, and contributes to UN peacekeeping missions. China, in contrast, builds parallel systems. It avoids open military partnerships, and when it does collaborate, like with Russia or Iran, it does so with a tone that signals defiance, not cooperation. So when the West looks at the strategic map, the difference is clear. India wants to build a safer world. China wants to build a world where it decides what's safe. That's the difference between partnership and pressure, between welcome and wariness, between trust and fear. When the world chooses who to trust, it doesn't just look at what a country says, it looks at what it consistently does. India and China both speak of peace, both claim to respect sovereignty, both talk about development, growth, and cooperation. But the world has learned to look beyond words, because trust is not built in speeches, it's built in choices. And for years now, those choices have pointed in very different directions. India has chosen restraint, even when provoked. It has chosen transparency, even when faced with complexity. It has chosen alignment with a global rules-based order, even when that order did not always favor it. China has chosen the opposite. It has redrawn maps without consent. It has silenced voices that speak out. It has used trade as a weapon, and diplomacy as a mask. This difference is why India is increasingly seen as a partner, and China as a problem. It's why India is being welcomed into supply chains, defense partnerships, and tech alliances, while China is being cut out of semiconductors, banned from networks, and confronted in regional waters. It's not a contest of size. China's economy is bigger, its military is larger, its infrastructure moves faster, but in the long run, none of that guarantees influence. Because in the 21st century, trust is the new currency of power. The West doesn't just need strong partners, it needs reliable ones. And India, with its democratic roots, strategic patience, and cooperative spirit, offers exactly that. This doesn't mean the West sees India as flawless. Far from it. There are disagreements on trade, on digital regulation, on human rights, but disagreement in a democracy is expected. What matters is that there is space for negotiation, openness to dialogue, and above all, a shared respect for the rules of engagement. China has made itself rich, it has made itself strong, but it has not made itself trusted, and that is a strategic vulnerability money cannot fix. So the world is choosing, not between two economies, not even between two militaries. It is choosing between two models of power, one that builds quietly, invites partnerships, and earns influence through respect, and one that demands control, projects intimidation, and loses allies through fear. India still has a long way to go, but if the West is placing its bets on the future of Asia, it's not doing so blindly. It's choosing the nation that shows the world what power looks like when it's restrained by wisdom, and what leadership feels like when it's guided by trust. That nation is India, and that trust, slowly, steadily, is reshaping the world.